So we come to the classical period, and this is the period that most people are most familiar with. It's where the composers like Haydn, Mozart, Palestrina are all from, and it's characterized by a few important shifts away from Baroque. Now, while Baroque is very popular because of its counterpoint style and its heavy melodies, classical is clearer and brighter. And Baroque, you might have noticed, had sort of a quality where energy was constant throughout the whole piece of music. You didn't really feel a climax anywhere in there, but in classical music, you build to a climax at some point during the piece. It's not always the end. Also, classical is remarkable for its mastery of styles. There is a focus on a composer really picking one sort of music and learning to do it right. For example, Mozart was considered a master of the opera. Haydn was considered a master of the symphony, and so on down the line. Like I said, brighter and clearer tones tends to be less cluttered than Baroque. So, also, you might know that the piano came into existence during the classical period, and it quickly overtook the organ and the harpsichord in terms of popularity. So, let's hear a little bit of what makes the classical period really special and unique. Joseph Haydn was sort of an interesting guy. He actually wrote well over 100 symphonies during his life. He was extremely prolific, and he was a contemporary of Mozart, a good friend. Now, it took almost 145 years to bury Haydn. He died in 1809, but he wasn't actually interred head and body until 1954. What happened was his patron had originally intended to bury him at Esterhazy Castle, where he worked for most of his life. But he was in Vienna at the time of his death, and Vienna was at war. It was being attacked by Napoleon. So he had to be buried in a relatively simple ceremony in a churchyard in Vienna, where his head was stolen for phrenological purposes shortly thereafter. For those of you who aren't familiar with phrenology, it's the study of bumps on people's heads, and apparently they believe that it could tell you something about their personality by how large this part of your skull might have been. Now, as you can imagine, they found absolutely nothing, except that the musical bump was very well developed. It wasn't until 1932 that the head showed up again in the Society of the Friends of Music, a museum in Vienna, and not until 1954 that the body and the head were eventually reunited at Esterhazy.